Webcams in 2025 were good, and also webcams in 2026 I'm really looking forward to, but I have two here that I want to take a look at. The Razer Kiyo V2 and the Razer Kiyo V2X. This is their 4K webcam, their new 4K webcam, and their 1080p or 1440p webcam that they've sent over for me to take a look at. And with things like the face cam with the interchangeable filters like we covered last year, as well as the YOLO Live YOLO Cam S3 that we covered at the end of the year, they have some pretty big competition to go against, except for the price. The 4K 30 webcam is on sale for $140 on Amazon, and the 1080p webcam from them is about $100. But when I met with the rep for Razer, they said that there's some really cool stuff inside of Synapse, especially a partnership with Camo for a whole bunch of really cool effects that work with these webcams. So we're going to take a look at them today, and let's see if Razer is actually putting out some great webcams. Let's get into this video. Now, full disclosure, Razer did send these over for me to take a look at. There is no expectation of some type of content or anything like that. They're not seeing it ahead of time. They're not paying me for this. The only way that I'm going to get any monetary out of this is if you do purchase one of these from an affiliate link down in the description, or anything else from Amazon for that matter. That out of the way, let's get these unboxed. So we're going to start with the Kiyo V2X. We're going to unbox it. This is the 1080p webcam. As you can see, it says full HD 60 FPS, but on the bottom, if I show you that, it'll say at the top 1440p 30 FPS. It is an 80-degree field of view, which is not that wide, but it is a 3.7 megapixel sensor, and they show you all of the details that are there at the bottom. It does have a built-in microphone, but let's go ahead and get this open. One of the things that I was always concerned about with a Razer product is actually Razer Synapse. And the big thing about that is I've just always heard that it's not that great on the system. That being said, I'm actually on a Mac. Let me zoom out here. You can actually see I'm on a Mac Studio now. I'm actually not on Windows. So they actually have a native Mac Silicon app, so we'll see how well it performs here in just a moment. And here it is, the Razer Kiyo V2X, and a really nice webcam. I do know that you can rotate this and actually close the sensor down and put a sensor cap on it, which is really cool, and it's also very satisfying to close that down. So really cool. I love that. That being said, it does have the microphones. It does rotate side to side. It does tilt forward and back on this stand. It does have where you can attach it to a monitor and a 1/4-20 mount on the bottom. This feels very sturdy. One downside I already see is no removable USB-C cable or anything like that. As far as the cable goes, it is a USB-A cable, and it's not removable on the back of this. The box says USB 2 connectivity, which is interesting how they're going to push 1440 over a USB 2 connection, but we will see. Let's go ahead and get the other webcam unboxed as well, but man, does that look nice right there. All right, we're going to put that to the side, and let's go ahead and get the V2 unboxed. This is the 4K webcam version of this webcam, and let's see what we get out of this. So here's the actual box of the Kiyo V2 now that I have it outside of the packaging, and we can see all of the stuff that they list here on the back, AI powered auto framing and all of this stuff. Really interesting one-click image enhancement, all this stuff from the Razer Synapse. What we'll do is we'll look here at the bottom. We can see that it says 4K 60. It's got a 93-degree field of view, an 8.3 megapixel camera with a focal length of 3 millimeters. It says 20 millimeter full frame equivalent, which is really cool. It does have HDR support, Razer Synapse software, interesting, whole bunch of stuff to be able to look at here, and has USB-C to C supporting USB 3.0. So let's get this unboxed. So this one slides out. It's interesting. The cost of these two are only just maybe $30 or $40 different, but the unboxing experience completely different. However, on the inside, it looks very similar. So let's go ahead and get this webcam out. We can take a look at it. So here's the Razer Kiyo V2. I haven't even done the peel yet, but let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look at this webcam. It is very beautiful. It is metal compared to the V2X's plastic. Interesting there. All right, let's go ahead and do these peels. Normally new products, peels are satisfying. That was not that satisfying. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Here it is, the Razer Kiyo V2, the 4K webcam. It says it's an ultra wide, and it does have the same rotating like protection for the webcam, you know, the webcam cover that comes in there. But this is the Razer Kiyo V2. Really neat here. Again, this is a metal body compared to a plastic body. But if we put both of them side by side, you can kind of tell very similar in appearance. However, plastic body, 1080p. This is 4K and it is metal. It also has a removable USB-C cable, which right here you can see is C to C. There's no C to A adapter, which is, you know, I wish they would always include that because it's just USB 3. It's not like 3.1 or anything like that. On the bottom, it does have the same kind of connector, a tilt, as well as a monitor mount and a quarter 20 if you need to be able to attach it anywhere. It does not have a tilt, but it does have rotate on this. And that's basically it. This isn't removable from this mount. You just quarter 20 to the bottom of this. And that's basically it. Really neat here. Now let's get these plugged in and let's take a look at the picture quality. So here's the Kiyo V2X, the 1080p 60, 1440p 30. But by the way, let me just go ahead and tell you, this is a 1440p 60 webcam. I had it connected over USB into the USB 3 port, and I even checked online on their website, and I'm pretty sure it says 1440p 60, but the box says 1440p 30, which is crazy. But for 1440p 60, this is what you're getting. And now you're probably asking, Brandon, that looks really bad and blown out. And I actually fully agree. But let me go ahead and show you something before we even show you the V2. This is what I was able to get out of this webcam. I adjusted the colors. I was able to move everything and use some presets and adjust some settings. And this is what you're getting for a sub $100 webcam, 1440p 60 in here. Now, is it sharp? No, it's not sharp. It doesn't show everything, but this is a pretty wide webcam, and this is actually in front of where my lens is for my normal sensor, and this actually has almost an identical field of view as my regular camera. So you go ahead and take a look. I'll go ahead and pop over there to that. You can see here's my regular camera, right? And here is the V2, which we're going to show you here in just a second. And here's the V2X. Again, regular camera, and then the V2X. It's very similar how this is, which is pretty cool. And it's actually I think it's a decent picture. Again, is it very sharp? No, not really. And again, this is at 1440p. If I drop it to 1080, we don't get much difference there. I actually feel like it gets a little sharper at 1080p compared to 1440p. And this is all at NV12 for the compression. So maybe we leave it 1080p, and this actually, I mean, for a webcam, again, guys, we've got to remember it's a webcam. It's not, you know, it's not a mirrorless camera or anything. Now, this camera does have autofocus. That being said, it does not do a really good job of actually following any kind of focus. And even if I move out of frame, it kind of wants to adjust and move a little bit, but not a lot. And so in the actual settings, I'm actually I can toggle off autofocus and actually lock the focus, which I think is the best way to do this. And I'll show you the settings panel now. Now we're on my desktop, and you can actually see this is the actual app we're using right here, which is webcam settings. It is not a free app. It is $5.99 on whatever you call it for Mac. I know you can do this for free in Windows by just opening the camera things, and you can adjust compensation and white balance and all of that stuff. But for Mac, it's not native, so I had to buy an app to be able to do that. That being said, I was able to adjust a lot of things in here. I could aperture priority or manual. I did manual to be able to adjust a lot of these settings, and you might not be able to see it. I'll probably zoom in on this piece, but you're able to get white balance, temperature, and adjust them up and down. And so this camera does support a lot of those features, what you normally get on Windows when you just click like camera settings or whatever, and it pops up that white panel. I'll show some B-roll of me doing that on some previous videos. I'm not connecting my Windows PC just to show you that, but you do get things from focus and zooms and all of that stuff. So to be able to, you know, control this camera however you want. However, I will go ahead and say, since I'm on Mac, and if you use a UVC camera and you can't get those controls because of OBS or whatever the case, this app is pretty awesome. I think it's fantastic. I don't think you can click these little auto bubbles very well. Like for this focus, I'm literally like spam clicking this, and I can't get it to uncheck unless I click the specific dot that it wants me to click. There we go. I finally got it to do it. And so then now I can adjust the focus. But it is not the easiest thing to turn this on and off. I think that might just be a bug with some scaling, but we'll move on from that. Anyway, let's go back over and I'm going to show you the Kiyo V2, and I'm also going to show you the V2 software with this. And so here is the Kiyo V2, and this is the out-of-box settings for this camera. And as you can see, this is actually at 4K 30, I believe. I'm checking. Yeah, I've got this at 4K 30, and I have to say, I mean, looking at the quality, yes, it does have autofocus, but it also has like auto white balance and auto compensation. We'll be able to turn all of that off soon, which is nice because man, does it struggle with white balance. That being said, it does look really good. It is a wide field of view, and I have to say, like, quality wise, it probably looks on par with the face cam. Actually maybe a little bit better because it doesn't have like all of the jarring stuff inside of it. Maybe it looks better than the Facecam 4K, the one with the rechangeable lenses and stuff. Maybe so if I can change, you know, a lot of the backlight stuff. Sorry, I'm looking at my beard and the sharpness as I move around. I think this has HDR on out of box. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the settings. And let me tell you about Camo Studio and Razer Synapse and the whole mess that brought. So here it is, the Razer Synapse software. It is connected to the Kiyo V2. It does not connect to the Kiyo V2X. Just as an FYI, it does not recognize in the software. Now, Kiyo V2 is great. Razer has partnered with Camo Studio, which we've covered on this channel before, give you a lifetime license once you boot up the first time for free. You just got to create a Camo license, install Camo, and everything's basically done. That being said, it felt like not only installing Razer Synapse on a Mac had me give permissions to a gajillion things, which I hate. Anyway, there was just a lot of installing that it just felt very extra to be able to get what you need. That being said, this is a $140 webcam with a $99 Camo license, Camo Pro license included. So basically a $40 webcam if you're going to use Camo for other things. I don't know. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to adjust some of the settings for the V2 and show you again, this is, you know, what it comes as out of the box. So what we're going to do is just make some very basic adjustments and see what we have right here. So we have autofocus, there's passive and responsive. So I'm assuming that's how quickly it focuses. So if I put my hand up and I take it away, it focuses pretty good. The problem is, just like all webcams, there's that focus breathing where it hunts forward, back, and then it figures out like, oh, that was not too good or that was too far, and then it comes back. That being said, you can go to manual focus, which is probably what I would do and find where I normally sit and just lock it so that I don't get the constant hunting. And because it's a webcam, you know, you don't have a huge amount of bokeh or just kind of that, you know, the compression because of a low f-stop or whatever the case. So finding a nice manual exposure is probably the best way to get this where it needs to be. So that's what I'm going to do, is just kind of get the manual focus kind of where it's going to be around me. I'm probably just going to leave it here. That being said, it is very sharp. Auto exposure, we have average, center, or face for options. If I do face, it'll automatically adjust that. If I put my hand up, it's going to adjust all the auto exposure stuff. Again, we have a compensation where we could lower this and raise it, but let's go ahead and turn it off. It gives us ISO numbers to click, which is nice, and it gives us shutter speed. Now, seeing as I'm going to test it at 60 FPS and at 30, I think I'm going to do 1/120, and then we're just going to bump some of the ISO and see what we can get. 400 to 800 is a really big jump. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that definitely blows things out. 400 to 800 is kind of nuts. The colors are all over the place. We'll fix that. I might do a faster. Why didn't they give us like a 600 number on that? It's kind of crazy. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's just go ahead, and that feels kind of weird. Maybe we do it at 60 and we do a 400, maybe a 200. It feels dark, but we're going to go with it. We're going to ship it right here, and we're just going to keep going because my face is looking a little bit better. We do have a zoom. We have a pan and zoom. We have kind of these presets that we've seen on a bunch of different webcams, especially in Elgato. So it's nice that this is included here. All right, from processing, we've got HDR dark room or HDR bright room. What does bright room say? The current settings on the camera will be different from Razer Synapse. Which settings would you like to keep? Camera or Synapse? I don't understand what this is asking. The current settings on your camera is different from Razer Synapse. Which settings would you like to keep? Camera or Synapse? Let's do Synapse. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I don't know what just happened. But if I do darkroom, okay, everything kind of, let me just go back to auto exposure. Oh my God, I just realized that my wife's hair is all over the shirt. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what happened, but now we're controlling inside of Synapse. And are you happy with what you're seeing? Because I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. Let's turn off HDR. Let's see what happens. Okay, HDR is off. Maybe we turn off low light compensation. Let's go back to camera. We can turn off auto exposure. It does not like anything I'm doing inside of Synapse for exposure. What is happening? I have to do the compensation slider. And then, man, this does not. What is happening? Cool, warm, custom, vibrant. None of these things are really changing anything. I thought we were making this look really good. And then what does this look like in OBS? Okay. It looks just as bad in OBS. So it's controlling it. What is happening? Let me go back to Synapse. I feel like we have to start fresh on this. And can I just go ahead and say Razer? Okay, number one, the webcams look so far, I'm liking the look of it. But can I just tell you that your software, God, I love Camo. But if I controlled this in Camo, this would be top notch. But why does Synapse have to be so difficult? Look, if I wanted to like reset these settings or make an adjustment, right? It pops up this like, okay, here's like quote unquote, I've reset the settings, right? But there are times when I make any kind of weird adjustment, it's going to say, do you want to keep the camera settings or the Synapse settings? What are you talking about? It is the camera and it is Synapse. What are you on? What do you mean? Okay, so let's go back to 4K 30. Like I don't even know what image we're looking at right now because it's not even the image that makes any sense. I think out of box when I first came here, it was like minus 1.3 or something. But like, doesn't this look so much worse than when I had it out of box? Wow, if I was someone who didn't want to tinker with things, I would be, and this is bouncing all over the place because I keep moving my desk. If I was someone who didn't want to mess with things, this would be wholly frustrating. Oh my God, because it looked good for a moment. I had it in like background before we were doing things. It was looking really good. All right. I don't even know where, like man, I mean, look at it. Now it's like sharpness out the wazoo. I mean, this is crazy. All right, let's do auto exposure. 1/1. I don't even know what I'm going to end up with that's decent. We're just going to say that we're going to start here because this is crazy. I was actually really impressed so far. And then it all kind of fell apart. Yeah, here, like I want to toggle off HDR. The current settings on your camera is different from Razer Synapse. Which settings do you want to keep? If I click camera, it won't let me mess with things. Okay, HDR is off. I have no HDR now, which is fine. Let's go back over here. We'll turn off auto exposure. Now I can't change any of these auto exposure things. What are you telling me? I can't change anything. However, I can get auto exposure if I adjust these things. I can do, I'm so confused. Let's turn off autofocus. Let's get the focus on us and let's stop having this thing move around at least. Zoom still works. Preview, it's the V2. Let's go over to image. Okay, we've got brightness, contrast, image presets. Let's turn off auto white balance. And let's try to white balance this camera as best we can. Okay, this is about as, now everything's like, do you see how blown out this is? What am I don't even understand. Anti-flicker at 60, mirror video. I don't need to mirror the video. Processing, HDR is still on. Low light comp? No. What happened to the camera that looked like decent a second ago? I want to compare these webcams, but I don't know. Let's go to 1440p. Is it just 30? Okay. We know that that's the case. What about, let's go to 1080p, 60. Let me go to transform and fit this to screen so it can be full size. Here's 1080p 60. I mean, does this webcam look pretty decent at this point? Sure, but does it look better than this? I mean, it's wider field of view. I mean, I could adjust this down just a little bit. I mean, I don't know. This is sharper, sure. I mean, this is 4K 30, okay? And I know it's dark, But minus me going in here and actually adjusting it inside OBS, I feel like the moment, let me go back over here, the moment that I do any kind of adjustment here, look, the camera on the settings are different Razer Synapse. What settings do you want to keep? What do I click? What do I click? Because if I click Synapse, okay, let's click save. Now it changed again. Now it looks more blue. I don't think that it's done my white balance. I mean, what? I don't understand what's going on. This is really frustrating, guys. So what is it? Is if I hit save, what happens? Does it save it to the device? Save your settings to use them on other apps. Okay. So if I go over here and I choose Kiyo V2, I mean, it's there. I've ditched Razer Synapse. Okay. Now I'm in this webcam panel here. Okay. This is the thing that allows me to kind of just control some of these settings. Okay. So I'm just going to sit here and see how I can do this. Exposure setting is removing some of the blockiness. So I'm just going to see, can I make it look good without using Synapse? Okay. Well, what I saw in this preview is not what I'm seeing inside OBS. So now I'm technically on one different screen adjusting things because I think I've got to adjust a little bit to make this a little bit whatever. Okay, so here's the Kiyo V2, and I'm now approaching like an hour and 10 minutes into recording this video. Okay, and that's with some pauses in there. So we're probably like an hour and a half of me messing with these cameras. And here's my final thoughts on these cameras. By the way, we're on the Kiyo V2. I'm looking at my Elgato prompter underneath here, which has got the monitoring, the Kiyo V2. And then here is the Kiyo V2X. Okay. And again, I made these adjustments with the app that I got off of the like app store. And then also the one that you could just use the one that comes with Windows when you actually click in OBS to open the device settings, whatever. You could just do that. And you can totally do the same thing with this camera. And I'm going to be 100% honest. Camo Studio is something that I genuinely love and enjoy. But then you have Razer Synapse, and I don't know how this is truth. I don't know how you can mess up camera control. And Razer, like if you could have just like baked it in and had all the features and all of that cool stuff, that's great. And Camo, I have a whole video on Camo Pro. I'll link it so you can go take a look at all this stuff. Nothing has really changed in the Camo software. It was amazing before, it's still amazing. And to achieve this look, I had to use Camo Studio. These are actually the adjustments because I used Camo Studio to get here and not Razer Synapse, because Razer Synapse, as you saw, was awful because it wouldn't save the settings. If you changed one thing, it would say, do you want to go between camera or Synapse? And then some things wouldn't be able to adjust as where some things would. So let me just go ahead and say something. If you buy this camera, use Razer Synapse to get the Camo Studio license, install Camo Studio, and you can control everything from there. Easiest stuff. Or just use the built-in device stuff. The only thing you're not going to be able to toggle is, I think, HDR on and off, which you might have to do with inside Synapse. But as far as the Kiyo V2 at $140, I'm going to be honest, I actually love the way this looks. I think it looks better than the Facecam 4K out of box, and with some adjustments. I have the focus locked, so it's obviously not going to jump. I have the white balance locked. I have the exposure locked. Backlight compensation is on. That's basically the only thing that is there, and that's because these lights were a little blown out when I do that. So as I move up here, you'll see like the very outside, like over on the outsides, you'll see those get compensated as I move up here, but you won't be able to notice that when you're like making content or streaming anything. This looks really good. This is the Kiyo V2, okay? Over to the V2X for $100 or less. I think this looks better than the Facecam Neo, which is probably the only other 1080p camera on the market that's competitively priced that I would still recommend to people. And there are other things, like I've covered an eMeet camera in the past, and some people are raving about those cameras, and great. You want to do that? That's fine. The software was trash, by the way. But this camera, I'm pretty impressed. Again, I think some of the sharpness is a little high on it, and maybe I can, knock down some of that sharpness with a couple of other settings, but I'm going to leave it for now. This is what I got out of making those adjustments. And so I think that this looks really awesome for $100 webcam. I think it might be a little overpriced. I'm not testing microphones. Okay. Most people who are making content have a dedicated microphone. I'm not testing what the microphone's on here. And honestly, I think Elgato has it right with not including microphones, because it's one less thing that your system can default to, which is absolutely insane. So hopefully, now that I'm saying that, I'm checking to make sure it didn't change my microphone. It didn't. Okay, thank God. This is, again, Kiyo V2. We just saw the V2X. Final thoughts. If you're going to buy a webcam for $140, this 4K webcam actually looks really good. It's just that the Synapse software is not that good. Please, the moment this video is over, I'm immediately uninstalling it and getting it off the device. I'm probably going to keep Camo Studio, but I'm going to immediately get rid of Synapse because it just does not. It just does not. That's the best way I can explain it. And then the V2X, I think if this went on sale, it's right now on like 99 or something on Amazon. I'll put up a listing. If this was on sale for $70, 75, I actually think this webcam looks amazing. And again, I just said, like, POV. If you see where this is, let me click on my main cam. Okay. I mean, oh man, I've been looking at webcams for an hour and I just went back to oh man, the quality difference is crazy. Sorry, I've got a cable hanging in the shot. Oh man, the quality difference is shocking there. Okay, so main cam to the V2. Here we go back to the main cam. We'll go back to the V2X. I mean, the V2X still looks pretty good. I mean, we're talking about most people have these things in a little small corner. If you take this, by the way, it's just going to be black on the outside. If you take this and put this small in a corner, right? You got to admit, you're looking at a black screen just behind it, okay? You got to admit that actually looks, from the corner, that looks good, okay? That looks good. If you can't admit that, that's kind of crazy. All right, I'm going to do that same thing with the V2. I'm going to pull it down into the corner like if it was a webcam. And again, from here, that looks great. I think the brightness might be just a little bit too high, again, on my face a little bit. But that field of view is insane. By the way, you can see my where I was cleaning my server out. Cleaning off all of the dust from my server. So let's finish this video up on the V2X. By the way, 1440p 60. That's what we're at right now. Let me check. Let me make sure. 1440p 60. We'll drop it down to 1080 and let's see what happens. Yeah, it's much softer. By the way, 1440p 60 to get this. I mean, for $100 for 1440p 60 camera that you can get to look this good, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so check out the other reviews that I have of webcams. Right here is going to be the Facecam 4K and the YOLOCam YOLO Live, and then I also have one as a bunch of other, just the actual Facecam 4K video, and I have a bunch of other webcam reviews. Before you make a purchase, go check one of those out. And in that same case, maybe we talk about some budget or cheap mirrorless cameras to get a look that's something similar to this. Let me know down in the comments, please. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys, and y'all have a great day.